All right, welcome back. This is the Something Venture Podcast. I'm Kent Lindstrom. I'm your host. This is part 2 of my conversation with Neil Cohen, where we spent some time having a little fun talking about our favorite internet bubbles, our favorite internet fads of the past 15 or 20 years. Hope you enjoy it. The segue.
Oh, God.
So
Ginger. It was Ginger first, right? Remember, that was the nickname.
No.
Secret. It was a secret, right?
Yeah. So the Segway comes out. It's going to revolutionize transportation. Like, what the hell? And it was like the most obvious thing to me.
If you're a tourist in San Francisco, it revolutionized transportation.
That's what it ended up being.
Yeah.
But there's a super obvious problem with it. Like, the second I saw it, you look like a goddamn moron riding the thing. Like, it's like Google Glass. It's like, I don't know what it does, but it looks ridiculous. Nobody's going to do it. And
well, it was the Google Glass of its time, which is on our list, by the way, of one of the things that has to go. You know, you talk about hype and changing it all.
But yeah, Segway was going to change transportation. And by the way, being able to go like 20 miles an hour as a person instead of walking, like, isn't that a bike?
Well,
like, I don't know.
but what I remember when it was, because everybody, this top secret thing. And so talk about the hype factor. You remember its nickname? They had a nickname for it. People were going in to see it secretly. They'd come out and they were saying, like, take my money. Yeah. Here you go. And
like, what is this technology? I'm like, I'm not a big tech guy or anything, but I think it's a gyroscope.
Right.
Like, I think this is a pretty well understood technology. And I'm not sure. Maybe it's something more complicated than that.
But I think, and so now you jump to 2009, and I think a big thing about the app which was the born of what is now called the sharing, in retrospect, the sharing economy. Yep. And Uber came out, right? And this little thing that was going to disrupt taxis. And there's a lot of people who work for Uber here, and maybe but I hear the story about the pitch it's like, the taxi industry in San Francisco is $80 million, and we can get, we think we can get a percentage of that. And what it turned out was the problem is that there wasn't enough capacity, and in the first year or two, they didn't get a portion of the 80 million. They actually created new market share beyond the $80 million market. Yeah. But what happened after that is everybody wanted to become the Uber of.
Yeah.
Right?
Uber of,
right. And so to me, that was the next trend. Yep. It wasn't Uber itself. It was like, we're the Uber of, and added here, like house cleaning, babysitting, dog walking, go down the list, and everybody became the Uber of some kind of excess capacity, highly distributed, and they wanted to be the intermediary for what was a disintermediated or a disaggregated business.
Yeah. And it was really an example of nothing. Like, Uber is such a specific thing. Like, you need a ride so urgent. Like, I need to be somewhere else now. And Uber solved that problem. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't the case that, and this is where, sometimes you look at businesses and you're just like, you can see the obvious flaw right away. Like, people would start these house cleaning businesses. You're like, well, with Uber, you need to use their app every time because you need whoever driver. You can't wait for a driver that you'll like to be available, and whatever, it doesn't work. Obviously, with the house cleaning app, as soon as you get somebody you like, you're going to be like, hey, why don't we I'll just pay you. Like, why don't we get rid of the thing? So somehow people would sit in an entire pitch meeting and go, blah, 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 we're Uber. And, like, people wouldn't go, well, yeah, I get it, but obviously people are just going to, disintermediate you. So you're just you're a connection service for people to find a cleaning person they like.
Well, and I think, and I would love to see the original Uber pitch deck, but my guess it wasn't, we're going to disrupt the entire transportation industry, which is what they've ended up doing in so many ways. Now that I'm sure, and I'm 100% positive that Travis and his team didn't say, like, wait till autonomous cars come. No. And because that's what we're going to have. Actually, since they're big and huge now, they probably say that they did that. But and who's going to argue with them? But my point is truly revolutionary idea and concept, but in different ways than the hype versus the reality. And and this is again the thing that we were talking about, which is the hype is this thing that's out there, like we're going to be the Uber of, but the reality is what's really getting transformed here, and it's deeper and richer, but very vertically specific. Because look at what's happening now. You go forward a couple of years, and you look at this battle over autonomous driving, and the ecosystem that's been driving around that, like everything from lidar development technology, to the manufacturing, to changing how cities are going to be built and orchestrated to accommodate this new way of getting around to what's happened. And let's look at millennials and even younger, where people aren't buying as many cars. And it's changing everything. You have it used to be city car share was this public service thing, and now you've got these highly profitable car sharing services from all the big car companies.
Well, and I think Uber, people who didn't invest in it and who didn't buy Bitcoin, like you forget that when Uber's deck went around, people who looked at it, and by the way, this is not a bad investment thesis, is investment companies like this, people are like, I don't think this is legal. Like you're running a gypsy cab company, like I'm not going to, like that's an illegal thing. And so when people say, why didn't you buy, Bitcoin 2 years ago? Well, because you had to send cash to some weird bank and like worry that it was mostly used to buy drugs, and maybe you're going to end up on some FBI watch list. Like it wasn't like that freaking obvious. So people are like, oh, I wish I knew about Uber. It's like, yeah, it was. If you went back to your partners at the VC and said, yeah, they're running looks like an illegal gypsy cab company, and the CEO was like in and out, like one guy was doing it part time, and like it wasn't that obvious at the time. For me, it became obvious when I first met somebody who was like a driver, who was like, oh yeah, I go to school here in San Francisco, I'm paying my way doing this. Because when you hear that was like eBay. When people like, I'm quitting my job to sell stuff on eBay, you're like, okay, people making a living on this thing, this is happening. Yeah, well,
and it's across the board. But I think that's where the real changes come. And if you start driving forward from there, we've got 3 or 4 trends that are out there right now. Where's the reality and not the reality?
Are we past the bots?
Yeah, well, we can talk about the bots, but you've got everything from VR, virtual reality, augmented reality, AI, blockchain, big data and analytics, which is like this is our universe for the last 5 years. And I joke all the time, and maybe people see this out there. It's like some of these things I said they're like teenage sex. Everybody's talking about it, but nobody knows what the hell they're doing. Just recently there was some company and the people, it's just like, wow, what's our blockchain strategy going to be? And my question to them was like, do you even know why you need blockchain? Like, why do you need a highly decentralized, network ledger? Why do you need it? Well, I don't know. But
and my theory, my theory is like you can make up almost anything with the word blockchain because nobody really knows. Come on, I'll say it. And make anything up. So my business partner Jonathan was joking with somebody. They were going to invest in something, and he just made up a question like, how are you going to deal with the sidechain fragmentation? Like just doesn't mean anything. And they came back to him with like this response of how they were going to deal with that issue. So,
well, I've actually thought deeply about sidechain fragmentation, and I've decided that
I've just started a separate cryptocurrency just for that.
Just for that, there's a token out next week that I'm going to called sidechain.
So here's the ones that I think are stale right now: bots.
Yes.
Facebook bots, like. like there's no which one do you use? Like,
but this gets back to, are you a feature or a company? And so you talked about that a little bit early, that something that like a feature on Foursquare where you can check in is really just a feature on Facebook. It's kind of like when World Wraps came out here in the city 2 decades ago, and it's like, wow, look at that. They're not just Mexican burritos. You can put something else in the burrito.
That was ridiculous.
But the thing is like that's a product, not a company. Right. And so everybody says, oh, that's interesting. And then instantly you have 50 million restaurants with wraps.
Yeah. When burritos are actually just better.
Right. But the point is that, a thing like a bot is like, oh, okay, bots, I don't need a company for that. I can create my own bot. It's a feature. So, and that's one of the things with some of these things is that you have to separate a feature from an operational company, and people get crazed about a feature. And it's not a thing. Right?
Well,
look, even McDonald's can compete with Starbucks by opening up McCafes everywhere. And they do. They steal market share, and they didn't have to open up a whole new coffee company to do that.
Oh, man. Starbucks must just be killing the people at McDonald's. They must just be... If you work at McDonald's, you're like, God damn it, we make like a whole hamburger, cook it, put it together, keep it cold, sell it for like 99 cents. You guys are taking the coffee in the corner, $4. Like, oh, jeez. That's the way to make a living. At the same time, so bots, I think, is stale. Drones,
super drones.
For God's sake, with the drones.
We have a mutual friend. Shout out to Mitch Shapir, who calls it. He has an acronym for it. Yet another drone company. He uses the initials, and you just watch them come and go.
Oh man,
how many were there?
That's annoying as crap. And the use case is basically the. I think, as I understand it, the military using them to kill people seems to be the app, the one app that drones actually make money in drones.
And do we actually think that drones are going to deliver stuff to us?
That's a weird one, because Jeff Bezos is not he's not a trivial guy.
There's a lot to figure out. I mean, all the stuff that's in autonomous driving is going to work, drone avoidance. And I mean, all that technology, that avoidance technology can go into drones, and they can probably self-manage each other. My problem is when the person hacks the satellite and misdirects everything. And
it just seems, I assume that's not a serious part of Jeff Bezos' day, is figuring out the Amazon drones, because, again, the obvious problem would be when they drop a package on somebody's head and kill them. Kind of a problem. And then, two, they've got to come down to the ground at some point. At which point, won't people just take the drone? Free drone. So,
and to me, you talk about things that disrupt the moment. We were just recently in Kauai on a hike in the middle of frickin' nowhere at a waterfall, and some guy brought his drone.
They're annoying as crap.
And you're sitting there going like, dude. Like, we're out in the middle of nowhere, and you really got to break out the drone. Like, this is one of the new annoyances, which is like, can't you just be in the moment? Okay, fine. Take out your phone. Take a picture. Thank God there's no reception here. That you can't be like live blogging your experience. But great. Take the picture. Take the movie. It's beautiful here. I get it. That's what you do on vacation. But put the drone away.
I just assume you're a creep if you have a drone. Maybe that's not fair, but they're just weird. Like, it's just weird to be an adult with a drone in the city.
It's invasive.
It's invasive. It's like these dudes you see on scooters. Like, if you're 25, you shouldn't be on a scooter.
But I think that's
get a bike.
I think that's actually a new thing, which is kind of like anti-drone technology.
That I'm in.
I mean, besides a brick. Because that might hurt somebody when it comes down. I'm into it, and maybe that's a new trend we can develop. Kind of like targeted electropulse.
Well, you know what should work, although it's kind of old technology and it's not really legal in the city. A shotgun would be perfect. Like a shotgun with like pellets.
And just take it down.
But
Yeah, something that disrupts the motor.
Old technology.
So we got drones. And right now the things that are still out, and so you talk about the hype factory, and VR AR is big, and you had Oculus, and they go for this crazy valuation when Facebook bought them at an early stage, and then you've got Magic Leap, which is doing the VR AR, who for 3 years was getting.
I'm waiting for this one.
People take my money. Like again, this is another. But remember, this reminds me a little bit of Segway.
Yeah.
But different. Sure. But different in that at least the most recent reveal was like, okay, this is interesting. They're taking a different tack on this.
Are they?
Well,
I don't know. I saw a screen. So this is a company. It's like in Florida or something. Which, by the way,
I was right by their headquarters.
It's in Florida.
You're going to love this. They took over the old Motorola.
Yeah.
The old Motorola company in Plantation, Florida. So this used to be this giant office facility where Motorola used to develop all their tech.
Yeah.
That's now Magic Leap.
Yeah. Okay. So they're in Florida. So this is already kind of weird.
Uh-huh.
And then they raised like hundreds of millions of dollars.
No more. They were over billions.
Over $1 billion. Yeah. And the one image I saw was like this thing where they had merged like an office, like a video of an office with like a Martian sitting on the table. Yeah. And I was like,
Well, so I don't know if you've seen the reveal of what the hardware is going to look like, and so I'm going to jury out because they're taking a different approach instead of these just crazy like the Oculus headset where everybody looks like they're totally goofy and out of control, and you're flailing your arms and your legs because you're in this virtual environment. So here the glasses are clear and it's almost an augmented reality environment, so you can actually see through the glasses, but they can do things. But it's not as weird as the Google Glass, right? Yeah. You know, it's obvious that you're wearing a kind of a headset for a specific type of use case. Yeah. And it comes with its own little engine, right? So you've got this, kind of iPhone size engine that comes with it that has high function, very specific verticalized computing capacity against image generation. And so interesting because very different than what everybody else is doing, and maybe it'll be something. But the amount of investment in this is incredible, and again, being a marketer, you start looking at aside from games, what's the application going to be? Right. And you're still 5 years away from marketers even thinking about it. Yep. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with it. And obviously, if they come out with some interesting immersive game experience that doesn't involve a Pokemon, then maybe it'll be worthwhile. Yeah,
I don't know. So let's just make fun of the dumbest one. And this is one that I knew all along was stupid. The Juiceroo.
Yeah, but Juiceroo is going. But,
by the way, it's not called. Everyone calls it. Here's your first problem. If you call your company Juicero, everyone's going to call it Juiceroo. Right. That rhymes with underoos, which are underwear for children. Right. So don't call your company Juicero.
Yeah. But even though that's off of another trend, which started a few years back, which is food tech, healthier food. So how are you going to do it? So you've got all this money getting dumped into everything from Impossible Burger, Impossible Foods, Memphis Meats, some great new companies that I actually know, like Finless Foods, which is fish in a dish. And but so there's some interesting technologies out there, and some of them are real and some of them aren't. Yeah. And then you have something that jumps on the trend, like a Juicero, which says like, oh, we're going to give
you can call it Juiceroo. It's gone.
Juiceroo. But because I remember in New York, you had like Juice Wars. So it's like every corner in New York has another new juice company. It's like, how is that sustainable? How are they affording the rent? Yeah. How many things do you have to crush, right? And that trend, but that's a part of this larger trend of healthier food, sustainable food. Yeah. Soylent falls into it. Yeah. And so people are trying to find their little branches off of that, and how much money got invested in that?
Oh my God, insane. And this is one where, sometimes like I'm not the smartest guy in the room. Maybe I'm a simple country boy, but that's a machine that squeezes juice.
Right. And
when I grew up, there were machines that squeezed juice, and they cost like $8.
And you're replacing, and look, you have things out there like a Vitamix, which is pretty damn good. Like and what is it? It's a powerful blender. Yeah.
By the way, the Ninja's just as good, and it's $99.
But they're great.
Yeah, they're great.
And they work.
Juiceroo was so stupid, so like like not PC too. Like you're going to take an orange and figure out how to put 5 pounds of plastic wrapping around the orange, which, FYI, oranges come in a wrapper. It's called a peel. Comes right off. Oh my God, juicer. That one. I don't know who invested in that. Like that's one where I don't know how you sit down.
Some smart people invested. They had massive amounts of money put into that company.
I understand. I'm just saying that one I would have gotten. Yeah. I think that one I would have gotten.
And right. Retailers put it on their shelf.
Yeah, but they don't care. Like the retailers, like, look, if some damn fool's dumb enough to pay $600 to juice an orange, I'll take the money. And if it fails, like, they had no skin in the game. They're like, sure, I guess. Like, and who knows what they got paid to put that thing on the shelves. But the only thing I can figure out about why that happened, that amount of, and the CEO sounded nuts too. Like if you read stories about him, he just sounded crazy, and so I don't know how it happened. I think
they're all kind of the founders are a little crazy. But this firsthand.
Well, he was like vegan and would make his people like eat vegan, so like nobody had any protein, so their brains probably weren't working. I don't know what was going on, but he, that company just completely evaporated.
But convinced a lot of people to put money into it.
The only thing I can think of is they thought they had the next Keurig on their hands. They're like, look, people are dumb enough to buy little things, little
coffee pods,
little plastic things because they don't want to make coffee, and it's worth probably billions of dollars. So they're probably, this is the next Keurig. That's the only thing I can possibly think of.
Well, which brings us to today, which is the crazy. There's a couple of crazy things. So I think AI and blockchain.
Yep.
The new big data.
Yep.
Right. And now there's two things that I think is funny. Is like every industry is now getting AI.
Yep.
Right. So there's so they're bringing. At first, it was a little horizontal, right?
Yeah.
You've got this AI. You've got Watson, right? Massive AI, and now everybody's got AI for.
Yep.
And add your vertical.
Yeah. And there's machine learning too.
And machine learning.
Which is really funny. Like machine learning. Like I think the machine they're referring to is a computer.
Right.
But it's just kind of funny to call it like machine learn. Like I don't know. I just find it just funny that people use that term. Because I don't know. It's actually a computer. And I think there's more BS in people. The company I work for, Nuzzle, is in the news business. We aggregate news. And we have a number of competitors who claim to be using machine learning and AI.
Because it's the buzzword of the day. Look, I have a client right now who's in the nutrition industry, and one of her concerns is that her competition is using the term machine learning and AI, for theirs. And by the way, she has some pretty impressive technology that actually works. And my thing to her is like, don't worry about it. Like, just stick to, machine learning and AI is not a value proposition. It's a thing that might add value.
The internet.
Right?
For sure.
Exactly. So why don't we focus on the value proposition of what's the benefit of what you're doing?
Yeah.
If AI and machine learning is a reason to believe, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
But people don't care. If you told people that the reason you like Facebook is because of AI and machine learning that keeps feeding you stuff that you like to read.
Yeah.
Every time you click, you narrow that. Like, that's really interesting. I just like Facebook. Yeah. It's fun. I see things I like. You know.
And so we get not to promote Nuzzle, but what the hell? So we aggregate news for people based on what all their friends are sharing. And so that is a ever-changing set of stories that your friends find interesting. If, for example, you live in San Francisco, today it might be about what an idiot Donald Trump is, and tomorrow it might be something about the mayor. A completely different point of view than anyone else will. Every machine learning thing we see, you type in one day like, bikini photos, or you type in, SF mayor race, it learns that you're interested in the San Francisco mayor race and gives you way too information on the topic.
Right.
So I'm not.
But that's what. But I think as you start looking at from what's real and what's not real.
Yeah.
AI and machine learning is real from the perspective that when applied appropriately, it can make a difference for a particular thing. But the fact that AI and machine learning is there is not necessarily a value. Just like with blockchain, which is, what's real and what's not real,
right?
And why should you be applying it? It's like, you shouldn't be looking at a blockchain strategy. You should be looking at what's your business strategy and what are the right technologies to apply.
Right. Well, which takes you to a way to kind of backtest all this stuff. So what's the most successful social network? I can name it. It's Facebook. What's the most successful e-commerce company? I can name it. It's Amazon. Most successful bot company?
Most successful drone company?
No.
Yeah.
Most successful AI company? But Watson's probably the most successful brand. Most successful machine learning? I can name the most successful cryptocurrency company or blockchain at the moment. I think it's Coinbase. They made like $1 billion last year. $1 billion US dollars, not crypto dollars.
But if it's not Ethereum, Bitcoin, or Coinbase, what is it? Name something.
Well, two of those are cryptocurrency. Yeah, well, right.
True of them are actual, but but I'm just saying, it's like, but that's what you hear from everybody, and it's a very. Look, I always say, like, if there's an article on the front page of USA Today, beware.
Yeah.
Right?
Although the other thing, though, I would say if something's big in Asia, be ready for it.
Be ready for it.
I don't know. So that brings us, I think we've reached the end of the line with blockchain, right? Which is the current fad trend.
That and autonomous, I think, autonomous cars, which is just insane how much money and how many companies and what's being thrown behind that.
But I think the autonomous cars are one of those, well, tell me if you disagree, but it seems like one of those things where everybody looks at it and goes, that's got to happen. Well, I drive down the street and, like, the way people drive, that's got to frickin' happen. Like,
but there are so many. Well, the thing is that there's an ecosystem around it because there's so many things that have to happen to bring it together.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of money and there's a lot of talk about it, but the reality between it happening anytime soon and EVs is different. Electric vehicles is happening. You've got companies like Volvo and GM and Ford and a few others basically saying at some point in time in the near term future, I think Volvo, it's 3 more years that they're only going to offer EVs, right? So that's happened and gone.
Yeah.
But this next phase of autonomous and how soon it happens, I think the jury's still out. And you've got serious competitive, not just money going into it, but money going against each other for different approaches to the problem. It's not like if you look at Uber and Lyft, but also the companies overseas, like in China and whatnot that are competing against them, right? Yeah. That's all basically the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not doing different technologies. They're fighting for market share.
Yeah.
In the autonomous world, you have people that are looking at it completely differently and in their separate corners developing new technologies and not looking at each other.
Right.
They don't see under each other's kimonos.
But I think if you have Google, Tesla, Apple focused on a problem, and the AARP way behind it because they're like, hey, seniors can all
get around,
drive forever in this kind of thing. That's a lot of firepower going after an obvious thing. It's not a juiceroo.
It's definitely not a juiceroo. Yeah, my thing is just it's a little different than let's say a blockchain or an AI where these things are. It's just applied, right? Like, it's applied. How are you applying it versus the fact that it exists and it's a thing? And does that application make any sense whatsoever for the category of what you're trying to do? Yeah. Versus develop a whole new technology and ecosystem. So which is going to win? It's like back in the days of, is it VHS or is it Betamax, right? Yeah. And Sony lost, right?
Well, why don't we talk at long last about the current? I mean, the cryptocurrency and blockchain thing in Silicon Valley has come on in a way that's up there. It's well beyond the AI, the bots, the food delivery. Like really, really serious people are switching careers, moving into it, and making fortunes. Like
smart people. I know some smart people who are doing it.
So people tell me it's a bubble, but anybody who tells me about something's a bubble who's not a billionaire, I'm like, well, if you made $1 billion on predicting the real estate crash, great. But otherwise, maybe it's a bubble, maybe it's not a bubble, maybe it's a bubble that's going to last for 10 years.
Well, there's some reality out there, but the application and the practical for the everyday people, because most people, there's a handful of people, there's less than 1% of the 1% who even, have any inkling of what this is all about. Probably less than that, because I know smart people in the business, mutual friends of ours who I know are really smart and on top of trends, and they still don't know what to think of it all.
Yep.
And then, we were talking before we just got started about this new trend where people are looking at this combination of centralized, decentralized. So how do you combine blockchain, theory of blockchain, which is this highly distributed network, right? Where everybody's got the same ledger, to a centralized control and the merge of the two. And it's this new trend. And I'm going to tell you right now, I have no idea what the application is, but there are serious people talking about how this is the next big thing already, and investment is starting to go into it, and there are new companies being created, and I'm just shaking my head and going like, we don't even know what the application of blockchain is yet, and it's already morphed into a hybrid with central cloud control based computing.
Well, and I think here is kind of the seminal lesson. We look back and we see like that the segue was ridiculous and that Facebook was inevitable and all these things. But with blockchain and cryptocurrencies, well, in 5 years we're going to be like, well, obviously it was Dragon Chain the whole way, or whatever it ends up being. But now, kind of in the haze of it, the one difference that I note about it is that you couldn't get into Uber or Facebook. Like, you personally couldn't invest in. And of the thousands of VCs in Silicon Valley, only 2 or 3 could. But you can go buy some Ethereum.
Right.
And I think there's a whole kind of planet of people, or a lot of people, who are thinking, maybe this is the one that I get to come in on. I couldn't come in on Facebook, but I can come in on whatever, Cardano or whatever the currency is. And even if there is nothing to it, and even if it's this or it's that there's just a wall of I set up a little crypto portfolio just to learn about it. I couldn't get into 9 out of 10 exchanges. They're just shut down due to too much interest. So there's just a wall of people, a wall of cash. Wall Street money's not even in yet. That might just push these things up. Bubble or not, real application or not, who knows?
I'd say, well, look, if $9,000 a coin is still $9,000 a coin as it stands today, and when people listen to this, maybe it'll be more and maybe it'll be less because it's highly volatile. But I think at the end of the day, when we started talking about the hype, I guess, like everything, there's a double-edged sword, because hype builds a concept and an idea that might have value, intrinsic value below the surface. Right. And might have the unintended consequences, that have been driven down, through the years, where it's like, okay, it started as that, but it really became this, right? And so those pivots or those twists and turns are unknown, because you don't know how people are going to take the technology and apply the technology, and how consumers or users, whether it's business to business or business to consumer, how they're going to see the value proposition and start using it, because customers are funny things. They're always going to tell you what the problem is better than the engineers and the marketers in Silicon Valley are going to determine what the problem is that's getting solved. And so blockchain and cryptos and how that, what that value is going to be.
Right.
I think, is there something there? Yeah. I think there's a lot of value in a decentralized ledger.
Yeah.
I can't wait till it ends up, it's something that I can use personally, but I don't know what that is.
Well, here's my theory about it. Just get in and have some fun. How when people learn, when people live in a town and they don't root for the local team. They grew up in Boston. They're always so annoying. They're from Boston, so they won't get behind the Giants in San Francisco. It's look, you live in San Francisco. Why don't you just enjoy it? Become a Giants fan. Go to the game. Enjoy it. Same way with crypto. I'm look, maybe it's a bubble, but why don't you just put $1,000 in and see what happens? Probably you'll have nothing. maybe you'll have $10 million. Isn't that more fun than like telling everybody it's a bubble? Like,
but if you do make the 10 million, don't buy a drone. Just please don't.
God, that is so annoying.
So so that's and so sometimes it's hard to separate the wheat from the chaff, which is what are the things you should pile on and learn about, and one of the things that you should ignore or
and here if cryptocurrencies are a thing, which is not there's more to the blockchain than cryptocurrencies, but if they're a thing, you actually can buy 15 of them,
right,
and
watch it
and be diversified, and maybe if it's Stellar takes off or Ethereum or 0x or whichever one is, you'll make money and you'll have a little bit of fun along the way.
Right. Hey, as long as you're willing to lose all of every penny you put in, I think it's a good learning experience.
Yeah, and I don't think I think that's exactly what's happening. While it's a good news story, I think almost everybody who goes into cryptocurrency is doing it in the intelligent way, which is like, I'm going to put 0.0% of my net worth in it, just like portfolio theory says I am. I don't think anybody's actually mortgaging the house to buy cryptocurrency. I don't think that's...
Although somebody recently sold a house, and then the value of the Bitcoin went down 40% like the week after, and then you go, it's like... It's just too soon, right? So experiment, understand it, but realize that it's too soon to know the answer. And if you think you know what the future is 3 years from now, I'm going to say write it down on a piece of paper and put it in an envelope, and then in a lockbox, because we just don't know yet. But there's going to be some value, and I think you're right. Have some fun, learn about it, because when we come out the other end, the application of it. It's like I said, the application of AI and machine learning, the application of SaaS. How do you use it? That's where the value is, not in the hype.
I think that's right, and I think if people do learn about it and think about it, that is like it's sort of like when you listen to a show and people like they're talking about something and they keep disclaiming something like, "Hey, I'm not a lawyer," but shut up. Like we know you're not just say what you're going to say. I kind of feel the same. Like, I get everyone thinks it's a bubble. Mm-hmm. So let's sit down. Like, I get it. Disclaimer, it's a bubble. Okay, now tell me something more. Like the least interesting thing is that you think, Donald Trump cheats at golf. Like that is the least interesting news I've heard, in 2 years. Like, of course he does. Right. So like, it's a bubble. But now tell me, the other day someone was like, Disney, look this up on Google. Disney has a cryptocurrency.
And Kodak is a blockchain company now.
Which everyone's like, oh, that's completely ridiculous. Except if you said, hey, I have a startup that's a digital asset management tool on the blockchain, it sounds reasonable. And Kodak is a digital asset management company with some patents in that business. So,
which is fine, but this is practical application versus jumping on the hype, and then you have an iced tea company which changed its name to blockchain, and its stock goes up of course 50x in one day, and that's why everybody has to be careful and look at these things carefully, and separate that where's the craziness and where's the reality. Well, there is a lot. We both agree there's a lot of reality in blockchain. There's a lot of reality in crypto. But let's wait and see. Just like every business doesn't need to apply machine learning and AI to what they're doing. Some should.
And a cryptocurrency can have value even if it does nothing. Like gold doesn't, you can use it for things, but you can just all agree that something has value.
Right.
And that's a network effect business. I was talking to somebody the other day, not to pick on millennials, but they were like, Coinbase actually doesn't have all that. If everyone went and cashed in all their Bitcoin at once,
it'd be over. Yeah.
It'd be over.
It's a run on the bank.
So do you have any idea how an actual bank works? Yeah. You think they got all your cash sitting in, I was like, wow, you don't. Yeah. If that's your theory about why this doesn't work, a lot of other things don't work.
Just watch It's a Wonderful Life to get a refresher on how a bank works.
What the heck with that movie? Have you great lesson in banking, right? But you watch it every holiday season. You get like that guy. Do you watch it every year?
Every year.
We watch it every year. The guy commits suicide. He's drunk. He beats his wife. Like that. Like, there's a lot going on in that movie. Like I watched it recently. I'm like, what the good banking lesson. But he's a slumlord. These people like keeping people in poverty. Like, jeez.
Yeah,
that's a tough movie.
America.
Man, that's not where you expected this podcast to end up.
Frank Capra, heartwarming.
It's a fantastic
slice of Americana.
All right.
Hey, Kent, it's been fun talking about hype with you.
This is good. We rambled through a lot of years and a lot of stuff, but
hopefully we didn't lose anybody along the way. It was fun.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Neil Cohen. How do people get in touch with you?
At CohenNS on Twitter.
There you go. All right. Thanks so much for listening. This is the Something About Your podcast. See you next time.